What happens when a team gets so fed up with a player that they're willing to trade away their former most improved player for basically nothing? Welcome to the DiJonai Carrington experience. Dallas Wings just shipped out their biggest headache to Minnesota Lynx, and honestly, it's about time someone called this situation what it really is. This isn't just another one betrayed story. This is about a player whose behavior got so out of control that referees started calling security during games. We're talking about someone who managed to injure her own teammate while trying to hurt an opponent, and now Minnesota just willingly imported this chaos into their championship-contending liquor room. Dallas Wings finally pulled that trigger on the move everyone saw coming. They traded DiJonai Carrington to Minnesota Lynx in exchange for Diamond Miller, Karlie Samuelson, and her 2027 second-round pick. On paper, this looks like highway robbery for Dallas. They just got rid of their most controversial player and landed legitimate talent in return. Minnesota sits at 20-5 with the best record in the WNBA, positioning them as serious title contenders. Now, they've added a player whose highlight reel reads like a medical report that the timing couldn't be more perfect for Dallas fans who've been holding their breath every time Carrington stepped on the court. No more explaining away dirty plays. No, more wondering which star player might end up in the trainer's room after facing their team. The relief across Dallas's fan base is almost palpable. They're finally free from the constant drama that came with defending the indefensible. But here's where it gets interesting. Minnesota didn't just trade for any problematic player. They traded for someone who created the most controversial moment in recent WNBA playoff history. Remember that Caitlin Clark incident that had the entire basketball world losing their minds? That was your new Minnesota Lynx guard making her mark on the POSTSEASON. The infamous playoff moment that happened during Connecticut Sun versus Indiana. Fever's first-round series. Clark goes up for one of her signature shots, and Carrington comes over to defend. What happened next wasn't basketball. Carrington's hand made direct contact with Clark's face, specifically targeting the eye area. The impact was immediate and brutal. Clark's head snapped back from the force, and she immediately grabbed her face. In obvious pain, the rookie sensation who had carried Indiana through an incredible season was left with a visible black eye that became the story of the playoffs. Most players would show some concern or remorse after accidentally injuring an opponent like that. Carrington showed zero acknowledgement that maybe she had crossed a line. No apology, no concern for Clark's well-being. Instead, she doubled down on her aggressive approach, almost like she was proud of what happened. When asked directly about the incident, her response was telling. She claimed she didn't even know she hit Clark and insisted it wasn't intentional. But the replay footage told a completely different story. That incident became the template for understanding every Carrington controversy that followed. The pattern was always the same: aggressive contact targeting star players' faces and heads, followed by claims of innocence and zero accountability. Fans and analysts started recognizing this wasn't isolated behavior anymore. Fast forward to her time with Dallas Wings, and the same targeting behavior continued. During a game against Seattle Storm, Skylar Diggins drove to the basket on a fast break. Carrington came over to defend, and instead of making a clean play on the ball, she made contact with Diggins's head while supposedly attempting to block the shot. Officials immediately called it a flagrant foul because it was obvious this wasn't basketball. This was the same pattern of reckless contact with Thirster players' face area. The public outrage grew louder with each incident, and rightfully so. One fan captured the sentiment perfectly, stating that this wasn't physicality, but trash play from someone who doesn't belong on the court. Each incident escalated in severity and public backlash, with the Clark incident serving as the reference point for understanding Carrington's approach to the game. But the chaos reached peak levels when Carrington managed to hurt her own teammate while trying to injure an opponent. During a game against Minnesota Lynx, Jessica Shepard goes up for Ashit, and Carrington comes flying in with her usual reckless abandon. Instead of making a clean defensive play, she makes direct contact with Shepard's face while attempting to block the shot. Officials immediately called it a flagrant foul because the contact was so obviously intentional and dangerous. The real problem happened during same reckless play. Carrington's out-of-control movements put her own teammate Paige Bueckers at serious risk. Bueckers got caught in the aftermath of Carrington's dirty play attempt and nearly suffered a significant injury as air assault. Think about the mechanics of how one player can cause this much chaos jettison a single moment, you have to be completely focused on causing harm rather than playing basketball to create this level of destruction. Even her own teammates started questioning whether playing alongside Carrington was worth the constant risk. When you're worried about getting hurt by your own player during games, there's a serious problem. Beckers and other Wings players began showing visible frustration with Carrington's style, knowing they could become casualties of her reckless approach at any moment. The incident demonstrated that Carrington's behavior wasn't just dangerous to opponents, but to everyone on the court. Then came the moment that perfectly captured how far Carrington's behavior had spiraled out of control after a loss to Chicago. Sky, something happened during the post-game that made referee Roy Golbian feel unsafe enough to call for security. This wasn't preceded in WNBA history. Whatever was said during that conversation created such an uncomfortable situation that a professional referee, Samia Netron, to handle heated exchanges with players, decided he needed backup. The exchange escalated so quickly that security intervention became necessary. Other players and coaches watched it in complete shock as security was called on a player during a basketball game. Nobody had ever witnessed this level of dysfunction in professional basketball. Players who had been in the league for years said they had never seen anything like it. Carrington's reaction on social media made the situation even worse. She wrote about having a civil conversation and called the security response insane. Her response showed zero self-awareness about how her behavior was perceived by officials and fans. I fear our idea of a civil conversation requires security backup. That says a very thing about your approach to communication and conflict resolution. This incident became the final straw for many fans who were already fed up with Carrington's antics. They had watched her target Clark's eye, make contact with Diggins's head, and injure her own teammate. Now, they were watching her create problems with officials that went beyond the game itself. When referees need security backup to handle you, you're not playing competitive basketball anymore. You're creating an environment where trained officials feel unsafe. Dallas Wings management finally realized they had to make a move. After months of defending the indefensible, they shipped Carrington out of town. The trade brings legitimate talent back to Dallas while clearing their roster of constant drama and embarrassment. Diamond Miller was the second overall pick in 2023 and earned a spot on the all-rookie team. During her rookie season, Miller averaged over 12 points per game with solid all-around numbers. Her three-point shooting has been impressive this season, hitting over 50% of her attempts. Karlie Samuelson brings veteran experience with solid shooting percentages and professional consistency. Yes, she's dealing with a foot injury that required surgery, but at least she's not dealing with behavioral problems that require referee protection. Dallas fans are celebrating this trade like they just won the championship. The relief is obvious across the entire fan base. Here's what makes this trade absolutely fascinating from Minnesota's perspective. They're a championship-contending team that just willingly imported chaos into their locker room. The Lynx have the best record in the WNBA and are positioning themselves as a major threat to the defending champions. Now, they've added a player whose specialty is creating problems that go way beyond basketball performance. Analysts keep saying that Minnesota coach Cheryl Reeve is supposedly the one person who can fix Carrington's issues, but some problems run too deep for even the best coach Chesto. Address: Reeve has built a championship culture in Minnesota, but even a light coaching can't fix a player who targets opponents' faces and creates hostile situations with game officials. The ultimate irony here is that a championship team just traded for a player who specializes in getting ejected from important games. Minnesota's timing raises serious questions too. This trade happened right after Lynx star forward Nafisa Collier left a game with an ankle injury. They needed reliable depth and professional consistency, not additional chaos that could derail their title aspirations. Dallas Wings just proved that sometimes the best move you can make is admitting your mistake and cutting your losses quickly. The bigger picture here is a boost. WNBA finally acknowledging that talent doesn't excuse dangerous behavior that threatens player safety. The league has faced increasing criticism for tolerating aggressive play that crosses clear safety lines. Carrington's trade represents more than just one problematic player changing teams. It's about professional standards and whether elite athletic. A Stability justifies putting other players at risk. Dallas made the right decision bishoping out their biggest liability and adding players who can help them build something sustainable. Their fans can now focus on incredible basketball instead of wondering which star player might get seriously injured next. Meanwhile, Minnesota just took a massive gamble that could either pay off with defensive intensity or completely backfire. When championship pressure amplifies distinct behavioral issues, only time will tell whether Carrington can adapt her approach and contribute positively to a title-contending team. But based on her track record of targeting star players, injuring teammates, and creating problems with officials, this feels like a situation where talent alone won't be enough to overcome deeply ingrained behavioral patterns that have defined her professional reputation. If this story opened your eyes to what's really happening in women's basketball, smash that like button, hit subscribe for more WNBA deep dives, and ring that notification bell so you're first to know when we drop our next explosive break. Down.